Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Would everyone please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Corporal, would you please call roll?
Mr. Kizak.
Here.
Ms. Hannah.
Here.
Ms. Kane.
Here.
Also in attendance today is Township Manager Mr. Ratliff, Assistant Township Manager Mr. Valla, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Bartarelli, Director of Building and Zoning Jim Ennis, Director of Finance Laura Huckelbridge, Director of Public Works Eric Gardemeyer.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. We have a few upcoming meetings and events. First, the next Board of Supervisors budget workshop meeting will be Monday, October 6th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Sorry, that's our next Board of Supervisors meeting. The budget workshops will be Monday, October 13th, 2025 and October 20th, 2025. Those are both at 6 p.m. So October 6th at 7, October 13th, and October 20th at 6. We also have coming up our Grooving at the Gates event. That's going to be Saturday, September 27th. That is from noon until 5 p.m., and that is held at Forsythia Crossing Park. So everyone come out to Grooving at the Gates on Saturday, September 27th. Next on the agenda, we have one special item, and that is a proclamation for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. Ms. Corporal, do you want to read the proclamation?
Sure. Proclamation recognizing September as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in Middletown Township. Whereas almost 21,000 people are diagnosed with ovarian cancer in the United States every year, the deadliest of all female reproductive system cancers, and whereas ovarian cancer is the fifth leading cause of cancer deaths of women in the United States and causes more deaths than any other gynecological cancer, and whereas in the United States, a woman's lifetime risk of being diagnosed with ovarian cancer is about 1 in 91, whereas women's lives can be saved through increased public awareness of ovarian cancer and its risk factors, signs, and symptoms. And whereas during National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, we stand in solidarity with the brave women fighting the terrible disease. We honor the mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, and friends who are tragically lost, and we renew our commitment to ending cancer as we know it. And whereas each year during September, people living with ovarian cancer, their families and supporters, along with patient advocacy organizations, come together to raise awareness about ovarian cancer. And now, therefore, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in Middletown Township.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. And that brings us to public comment. This is public comment on non-agenda items. If there's any public comment on non-agenda items, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening, Board. Lance Segers, 98 Queen Lily Road. So the first thing I want to talk about is the BET investment reschedule from the Planning Commission last week. Just wanted to point out, it kind of seems like a lot of these big projects, when they get put on the Planning Commission agenda, these big firms tend to reschedule these things after the initial, hey, we threw it on the schedule, the public outcry, let's get it on when the public forgets about it. And it seems like we kind of bend over backwards to appease these big firms. And I think we should consider maybe making sure that the citizens of Middletown have enough time to show up to the Planning Commission and other committees, because there are a bunch of them, whether it's the zoning committee, whether it's these meetings, that not everybody can show up to, and I think sometimes it gets taken advantage of. As well as with that plan, you guys recently approved the overlay to Wood Services. Part of the plan is for them to buy property from Wood Services. If we were giving Wood Services a huge overlay for their property, this almost seems like an end around for Wood Services to build on their property if we allow them to just sell property to another investor. We've already given Woods a huge, grab to build 90% on the however many hundreds of acres that you guys gave the overlay 90% residences. I think, and I know that's already been heard before, and it wasn't a great idea then. It's not a great idea now, but I think even now, after we've given them an overlay, I think it's an even worse idea. So consider that when that gets through the Planning Commission and everything. In regards to that, because that looks like it's like a plan for 290 apartments, does anybody from the board plan on reaching out to the school board or the superintendent in Chamonix to discuss whether they think it's a good idea?
I mean, in general, we talk to the school district about any plan that potentially could impact the school district. This plan it hasn't come to us yet, so it's not really.
No, I'm just putting it out there because, look, I feel like a lot of the times, especially I brought up capacity studies that Chamonix has done. I feel like there are people on the board that don't necessarily consider the impacts of what putting 290 apartment units or even smaller projects, what that does to our school district, the education for our kids. Our schools are already overcrowded. The capacity study says in 2013, we will be overcrowded at the high school. So what does that mean for your constituents and their kids and the education that they're going to receive? Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I will just strenuously disagree with the comment that anybody on this board doesn't take that into consideration. I mean, we certainly do.
Okay.
And just to add to that, the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, which governs our subdivision and land development ordinance and our zoning code, requires that we coordinate with the school district and put them on notice for land development plans and gives them an opportunity to provide comment as well, which we, of course,
And that's
participate
going
in.
so that's going to bring. I'm glad that you responded. So welcome to Middletown Township. I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I did read some of your comments and the comprehensive plan that you brought up. And I think there are a lot of people that disagree with the comprehensive plan for Middletown Township, and they disagree with some of the things that the board's done in regards to that. Specifically, the comprehensive plan talks about preserving open space. I think there are a whole lot of people in this township that would believe that the comprehensive plan in regards to that have been not even considered because we've almost been like if you want to build here, go ahead. And that's the way a lot of people feel. So when you brought up the comprehensive plan in some of your statements, I hope you're considering open space and the fact that we're lacking it now. And if we continue to allow people to build, we're going to have no open space. Our schools are already crowded. They're going to be even more crowded. So welcome, but I want you to consider that. All right. Thank you, board.
Thank you. Other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, please come up and state your name and address.
Bill Reed, 163 White Swan Way, Swan Point Development. I originally was coming to bring something to the board's attention, but I sent an email on Friday and to the supervisors, also to Mr. Ratliff and to Mr. Ennis, and it was addressed very quickly, and also the police department. So it looks like we're in good shape. But the issue, very quickly, it was open space parcel behind our development there was some clearing being done, damage being done to the environment, to the landscape for ATV vehicles, definitely all on township property. But at any rate, Sergeant Gracie from the police department came today, spoke to me, walked the site with me, then spoke to another of our neighbors who also witnessed it, and then spoke to the gentleman who's on the adjoining property that seemed to have done this. I didn't try to investigate as far as seeking out the person. But anyway, Sergeant Gracie, within hours, had gotten assurances that the person was apologetic, was not going to continue it. So then our only other issue is whether there should be any remediation, any repair to some of the work, the damage that was done. It does come up to a very tiny Core Creek, which drains into Lake Luxembourg. So there could be, on a heavy rain, some run off of soil and sediment or whatever into the creek. But I've spoken to, again, spoken to Mr. Ennis just a few hours ago, and he said he's going to deal with it. And Sergeant Gracie did a wonderful professional job, So, and I want to thank Dana Kane for also reacting quickly. So all in all, it looks like we're going to have a good result. And so I wanted to thank the supervisors, the police department, Mr. Ennis, Mr. Ratliff. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming to say that. And ATVs are an issue township-wide, not just township-wide, really, it's the whole county, and enforcement is oftentimes the challenge. And so it's nice to have a success story where, you know, the township and the police were able to hopefully resolve the situation. So I do appreciate you coming, and we will certainly look into the other issues with the property that you mentioned and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Christopher Nowakowski, Langhorne, good evening. Question, do we have an inspector at the township who goes out and inspects public works projects when they're being done, either in the midst of the project or when they're completed, like paving projects? I'm talking about the project at Core Creek Park currently with the extension of the walking trails over towards Woodburn Road. Is anybody sort of keeping an eye on that or no?
Sure. So that project specifically is being led by Bucks County. It is a county project. It is not a Middletown Township led project.
Oh, okay.
And they do have a professional project manager on the project, but I can't speak to the particulars of that project beyond that.
Could I just suggest that we reach out to them maybe? Because for the better part of 2 decades, I worked in construction inspection as a consultant for the state of Pennsylvania. And the worst contractor we ever dealt with consistently was James D. Morrissey. And they're the ones who have that project. And I walk there pretty much every day because it's in my neighborhood. And I noticed that within the last 10 days or so, they paved the first section of the walkway. It's like a 200-foot, a couple S-curves around by the dog park in the back of Core Creek Park. And when you walk on it, you can see the sub-base stone sticking up through the asphalt. So to me, they either didn't compact it properly or they tried to get away with putting a minimal amount of blacktop on there. And either way, it's going to be terrible for the lifespan of the project. So just coming from a sort of construction inspection perspective, I was like, what's going on here? So if somebody's been paying attention, there's a problem there. It needs to be addressed. And for our fiscal responsibility of our money, somebody should mention it.
We'll make sure that's brought to their attention.
Thank you. The other thing I had was that at the meeting last month, I sort of challenged our tax collector to come down here and defend the indefensible regarding the Republican Middletown Committee. So I'm not really surprised that he didn't show up here tonight. But if I were providing air cover for an unrepentant, unapologetic anti-Semite, I'd have reservations about showing up here too. So I suppose I understand his choice to stay at home, but what a moral disgrace. Especially considering he's asking the 46,000 residents of this township to vote him in.
Ma'am, this is open public comment on non-agenda items. He's free to speak.
Especially considering he's asking the 46,000 residents of this township to vote him in for another term as tax collector. It's a heck of a dual campaign strategy. Now, I'll say in wrapping, this isn't about raw politics. True, I despise the Republican Party's recent descent into hate and bigotry and anti-science know-nothingness. But what bothers me most is hate speech. And I find anti-Semitism to be the most disgusting form of it. And those who allow it to go unchecked, especially for political expediency, are truly the lowest of the low. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes.
Fran Grouse, 360 Green Ridge Road, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. I have a problem with this gentleman coming to the meetings and disrupting it all the time with his political agenda, okay? Let the Democrats stay in their lane, let the Republicans stay in their lane, and let the people come here and talk about things that need to be talked about. I think it's unfair that he's allowed to do this meeting after meeting after meeting. So, but that got added to why I wanted to come. I agree with the gentleman about the wood school, and I wanted to talk about the impervious surface. We keep building and building and building, and now the community is being taxed for the water runoff. We need to stop the building. There's too much building going on, okay? The third thing I want to address is, I moved up here from Philadelphia in 1998. When I moved up here from Philadelphia, the water pressure I had in the city was unbelievable. It was like 4.9, 5.0 per square inch. The water pressure was so great that I needed a water reducer valve in my home to keep my appliances from blowing out from the water pressure, okay? I moved up here in 1998, and it was just the opposite. I turned on the spigots, and it was drip, drip, drip. And I was like beside myself. I'm used to going like this in the shower, now it's like... So I called the water department, and I asked them about this. Is there a problem here? Can we open up the spigot? What can I do to get more pressure? And I was told that we're only required to give you 3.0, and we're giving you 3.2. So you really don't have a legitimate complaint. And I said, well, you need to open up the valve. And he said to me, well, you're at the top of the hill. If we open up the valve, the people at the bottom will have too much pressure. And I said, I understand that perfectly. So they need to get a water reducer valve in order to take care of that. Well, no, madam, that's not the way it works. And as long as we give you 3.2, you have nothing to complain about. He said, the truth of the matter is, we need a pumping station in Langhorne, in Middletown. And I don't know if and when you're ever going to get this. This was back in 1998, 1999. Okay, we let it go. And now I put up with it for years. My husband checked into it. The only way to do it was with a booster pump, which we decided not to do. In 2008, I decided I wanted an irrigation system. So I called the irrigation company out. Sorry, you can't have an irrigation system because you don't have enough water pressure. Well, I talked to the township about it. They're not going to give me any more. Well, then the only way to remedy it is to get the pump. So we got the pump, and now I have 4.9. My point is there enough pressure to support all the building we're doing? Because as far as I know, the pumping station never got built. The water never gets talked about. Like, we keep putting more toilets to flush, more toilets to flush. One day we're going to wake up and open the valves, and there's not going to be any water there. And this is one of my big concerns about the overbuilding that we're doing, besides all the other issues that go along with that. Has anybody really ever thought about the water pressure? Or any of that. So I'm just putting that out because it's something that somebody should look into. Because the day that the 290 and we all get up that day and go to flush the toilet and none of the toilets flush, it's going to be too late. And I can't understand that from 1998 up until now, the issue hasn't been addressed. And maybe I should have came here sooner. But, yeah, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment on non-agenda items?
How about something a little bit lighter? Eric Bruno, 79 Sweetgum. Supposedly, my doctors tell me that in order to live longer, I need to ride my bike more, so I've been doing that. And instead of driving my bike to Giant or the shops or Lincoln or whatever, I'm on my bike. And one thing I noticed is that we have a dearth of bike racks. They just don't exist. I found one at the Oxford Valley Mall, and that's it. Nothing at Lincoln, nothing at Lowe's, nothing anywhere. And I realize they're all private, et cetera. But, you know, two things. One, I'd appreciate you guys just send a friendly email to basically every big shopping area in the township. Hey, why don't you think about putting up a bike rack or something for people to utilize our multimodal program, which after I thought about this, I don't think we've talked about it since Anna died. That we haven't discussed it or we haven't pushed forward on it, and I think we should start to re-energize that program a little bit more. I know every single project might have a line or two or something in it, but that is missing. But if you guys could just send an email over to ask them to throw in a bike rack or two, and so I don't have to tie up to a stop sign, you know, I'd be appreciative.
Thank you. All right, other public comment on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, we will move into our consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Item A, consideration of authorizing payment of the September 8th, 2025 bills list in the amount of $2,142,924.15. B, consideration of approving the August 11th and August 18th, 2025 minutes of the public meeting and budget workshop meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. C, consideration of approving resolution number 25-15R for an intergovernmental agreement to participate in grant application for Towns Against Graffiti. D, consideration of suspending ordinance number 337-103D on Saturday, 9/27/25, Saturday, 10/4/25, and Thursday, 12/11/25 for the purpose of hosting beer gardens on township property. E, consideration of financial security release number 9 for site items completed to date for Oxford Valley Mall multifamily redevelopment S/LD number 20-68 in the amount of $44,804.50. And finally, F, consideration of financial security release number 10 final for site items completed to date for Oxford Valley Mall multifamily redevelopment S/LD number 20-68 in the amount of $241,752.75. Is there a motion on the consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to approve all consent agenda items as read.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of land development plan approval for the St. Mary Medical Center MRI expansion at 1201 Langhorne Newtown Road, Langhorne, PA 19047, TMP 22-004-019 S/LD number 25-05 in the RA2 zoning district. Yes, Mr. Ennis.
Good evening. Yes, as you already covered, this agenda item is a land development proposing a 1,600 square foot building addition to the St. Mary's Medical Center. Specifically, it's an expansion to their MRI wing. I have also here Paul Schmall. He is the, yes, that's his name, design professional and civil engineer for Barry Isitz. He is the design professional for the project, so he would be best equipped to answer any kind of technical details or anything I don't cover in this real quick overview of the project and how it's in front of you tonight. You have on your screens right now the St. Mary's Medical Center campus. Let's see here. This is a little tricky here. The building addition is like right, if I can get this, right there. It's, again, 1,600 square feet. So it's fairly small, really, in relation to the entirety of the medical center. And as far as this is more of a zoomed in, this is based off the plans supplied by Barry Isett. You see there in the light gray is the actual building addition to that area that I already pointed out in the previous slide. So it was fully reviewed by township staff and consultants. It did appear in front of the Township's Planning Commission on August 6th. It did receive a unanimous recommendation of approval. The recommendation of approval did include some waivers. That would be a partial waiver from the SALDO section to not include parking calculations on the planned zoning table, a partial waiver from the SALDO section to not require Middletown Township's Arbor Commission's approval for the landscape plan, and a full waiver from the SALDO section that allows for preliminary final land development approval. You also have Mr. Kessler's memorandum in your packets. He pretty much covers everything that I'm covering right now and does go into recommending a motion that would grant the land development plan. I am in agreement with that. So with that, I am also going to go ahead and defer to Paul for any kind of coverage and also technical questions that need to be answered.
Any questions from any board members? Anything additional that you want to add?
I'm good, thanks.
Nothing? All right. Let me just see. All right, I'll move to grant land development plan approval for St. Mary Medical Center MRI expansion at 1201 Langhorne Newtown Road, S/LD number 25-05 with the following conditions. Applicant shall comply in full with all requirements of the Middletown Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance and the Middletown Township Zoning Ordinance unless relief is granted by the body having jurisdiction, and any remaining review comments shall be addressed in full. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
I'm not opposed to the St. Mary's project, but because it came up, again, I live right there and I walk there every day. St. Mary's has a sign on the front of their property fronting 413. It's about 4 foot by 5 foot, thanking Governor Tom Corbett for the money to expand their cardiac cath lab. Corbett hasn't been in office since 2015. You think maybe the hospital could get the message to like take the sign down one of these decades? That'd be nice.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Just to add to that, his concerns have been forwarded to someone at St. Mary's.
Okay, thanks. All right, seeing no other public comment or questions, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Ennis. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is consideration of executing a memorandum of understanding with the Pendel Fire Company for the joint ownership of the Tower 8 fire apparatus. Mr. Ratliff, Mr. Vallow, who's doing this one? Mr. Ratliff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So this is a proposal for a memorandum of agreement between the Pendel Fire Company and the Township of Middletown to pay off the principal balance of Tower 8, which is $569,000 and change. This is an apparatus that's currently owned and funded through an apparatus funding plan by the township. They're currently making loan payments on that, and we have the opportunity to kind of pay off the principal balance, which will lead to a savings of a couple $100,000. In addition, the MOA spells out what the agreement might be with Pendel for joint ownership of that tower between Pendel Fire Company and the Township of Middletown. As we think about the future of the fire service, as well as the current day of the fire service, our volunteer fire companies, as well as our career fire department, need apparatus in order to be able to respond to different types of emergency incidents that they're dispatched to. There's no dispute between the township and the 4 volunteer fire companies that the township will need at least 2 aerial devices. There's one currently at Langhorne Middletown, and the second is Tower 8 at Pendel. We're proposing to enter into an agreement for joint ownership, which would allow for Pendel to use that fire truck, in this case Tower 8, as well as the township to do the same. In addition, as there's a transition, hopefully a very long transition, from the volunteer service to the career service, the township would have the opportunity to exercise rights of usage and then sole ownership of Tower 8 for the career department to be able to use that. So this is really about supporting the volunteer fire companies as of now, as well as planning for the future of the service. I've talked about this opportunity with all 4 volunteer fire companies, and the 4 fire chiefs all agree that this makes sense to kind of pay off the balance of Tower 8, which is contemplated in the apparatus plan that the township is operating with now. And then using that, the model agreement with Tower 8 for future apparatus purchases that the other volunteer companies might use. So that's sort of what we're looking at. There's an MOA that is nearly complete that we're working with the solicitor's office to prepare, which would establish the details that I've outlined here that we would come to agreement with on Pendel for that joint ownership. There's a full policy briefing summary, which is available to the public and to the board in the agenda packet, which spells all this out as well. Mr. Esposito, anything I missed here?
No, the only thing I was going to add was I believe you were forwarded a draft in substantially complete form, but it's still being a little bit worked on. So what we would be asking for you to do is authorize the township manager to execute the memorandum of understanding in completed form once it's been approved by himself and myself and fully negotiated with the Pendel Fire Company.
Okay.
If you go back to the slide I had 2 photos there. Some might be asking, well, what does a tower really do? There's 2 primary functions that it does. One is fire suppression, which you can see here in the bottom left, where they're using water that goes up through what's called the stick or up to the ladder to be able to put water down onto the fire. In addition, maybe not as commonly known, it's used in rescue operations as well. This is a rescue here in our township where there was someone disabled on top of the Amtrak train that they were able to get stabilized and then move down below. That's about 28 feet up onto there. So just 2 examples of how it gets used here in the township.
Thank you, Mr. Ratliff. Any questions for Mr. Ratliff? No? All right. Then I will move to grant authority to the township manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding, ultimately in a form that is approved by both the township manager and the solicitor. Good? Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. Been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Yes.
What do you mean opportunity? We sat here for a year and a half with that guy who comes in asking about the loan documents and laughed at him because it was kind of odd. But now you're giving rise to the conspiracy theory that something shady was going on, and now you want to spend over $500,000 to buy a piece of apparatus because opportunity? Like, what? Hang on now. Like, this is kind of odd. If you really think about it, we're looking at a year and a half of this guy coming in. I don't know who he is. I can't remember who he was, but he comes in asking for loan documents about this specific piece of apparatus. And, you know, I backed you up on this because it wasn't ours, but now it will be ours. Like, are we rescuing Station 8? Is that what we're doing?
No. So we, as part of the ongoing process that we are working with the 4 volunteer fire companies to modernize and move toward the future, which is a collaborative process, the first step in that process was an apparatus plan. That apparatus plan is to be funded by the township. That includes Tower 8. What the opportunity that has arisen is the opportunity to pay off the principal so we don't pay interest.
Cool, what's the rate?
I don't do
It goes up to 7% in 2 years.
What is current?
We're saving 241.
What's the current?
It's in the PBS. I don't have it memorized. 5, I want to say. I could be wrong about that. It's on the document on the website. Just to be clear, I met with Mr. Cahill, which is who you're referencing, and asked the question, because I wasn't working here at the time, and just sort of said, what are the concerns? I outlined the action that the Board of Supervisors was considering tonight. He agreed that it made sense, that the aerial was needed in the township. He agreed with the purchase to save $241,000. His question is very specific about a loan document, which really doesn't pertain to the township.
Which won't matter, because once you pay off the loan, it becomes a moot point.
Yeah, I mean, the question that he's asking isn't the jurisdiction of the township, which is something he and I also agreed on.
Yeah, right. It's not the specific jurisdiction of the township, but it's going to become our prerogative once we pay off the loan and own the apparatus. We should have, he was right. In that specific case, he's right. We should have the history of the financing of this piece of equipment. And then...
Why, though? Can I just ask why?
Because it seems like we're rescuing 8. We're rescuing Station 8, especially with that added in.
Well, I mean, you understand we have an apparatus plan. We're going to own all the apparatus township-wide of all 4 fire companies.
Like we're buying 3 engines this year.
But
we're not rescuing anything.
Then you're talking about the specific apparatus to start. Why this specific apparatus? Why not 7 or 77? Why do we start there?
This is number 4. So the township is in the process of purchasing 3 engines this year, 2 squads and an engine to be specific. And this is the 4th one that's being authorized this year. And that's all in accordance with an apparatus plan that's been dealt with since 2023.
What's the other 3?
I'm sorry?
What's the other 3?
There's 3 engines, 1 for each company.
What's the other 3? So what, engine 8, engine 7, engine 77?
244, Langhorne, and William Penn. So 244 is the career company.
And the question you had about the interest rate is currently 3.18%. It does recalculate, and as Mr. Ratliff correctly stated.
Over what amortization?
I'm sorry?
Over what amortization? Sorry, you've got a finance guy in front of you. Over what amortization?
It's over a 15-year term, so it is currently coming to the end of year 5. The lender has
Lock 5, AM15, or AM10?
Both.
No, it can't be both. Is it Lock 5 amortization of 15 or Lock 5 interest only amortization of 10?
The initial term is 15 years. The interest rate is 3.18%. The lender has the right to recalculate the loan after year 5, which is now, and again after year 10, and the amount of that interest is tied to a treasury index, and as Mr. Ratliff said, it's about 7% if that were to recalculate.
Just feels like you're giving rise to the conspiracy theory that guy was doing, and I just, you're just cavalierly spending $500,000, and it just feels like that based on the information of a year and a half of that guy coming in, that we're there to rescue 8, regardless if I know it's not called this. If Skyline's becoming fully career, I can understand that. It just seems very odd that now we're having $500,000 conversations. Why? And again, why the piece of apparatus? Are we going to take the stations too? Are we taking
This, first of all, this is not new. This conversation has been happening for years. And so this is part of an apparatus plan that was adopted a long time ago.
To be fair, lots of conversations about the fire departments have been happening for years.
Absolutely, and this was part of it. And so this was a part of the process. There's no conspiracy. You're trying to conflate a concern that the gentleman had regarding the loan when it was originally taken out by the fire company, as opposed to what we're doing now, which is taking ownership of all the apparatus as a township. And Mr. Cahill, again, I know you're referencing him. He met with the township manager, and he said, I agree, this all makes sense. This is not what I'm concerned about. So his concern is more having to do with Pendle Fire Company and what they did when they purchased the vehicle. It has nothing to do with the township's decision now on how we are moving forward with fire prevention and firefighting in this township, which is making sure we have all the apparatus we need for the volunteer fire companies and our career staff to protect lives and property in the township. The only thing that has changed, I would say, is rather than taking over the loan and deciding to make loan payments, we made a business decision, for lack of a better word, that it makes sense to just pay it off. But the funding was always contemplated, whether it's being a lump sum payment of the principal or paying off loan payments, just as the other 3 engines that we have purchased or in the process of purchasing. I think they're ordered, they haven't been delivered yet.
That's right.
All contemplated as part of the apparatus plan that the 4 fire companies agreed to.
I just want to be clear. I'm not against career. I'm not against career fire. I'd rather prefer. I'd rather prefer that we have a little bit more dominion over public services rather than the whims of a private public entity. But that's set aside. It just feels like that was a pain point, a sticking point for this, and it seemed like we had nothing to do with it. Now we have everything to do with it, and I'm familiar with rescue plans, and I just don't see the if we have 2 years, if we have 2 more years, I don't see what the rush is to grab it now versus let it ride out until the interest rate's ready to swap. So you're spending $500,000, and this is in the budget too. This was in the budget.
It's contemplated in the apparatus plan and in the apparatus funding plan within the fire fund.
Set in 24 for 25, all of 25.
I'm sorry, I can't.
It was in. So it was that amount was set aside for 25.
The fire fund contemplates the three engines I listed earlier and the tower. Yes. That's, like I said, this isn't.
One of the key
totally new.
changes that's occurred is how the township is spending the apparatus money. So before it was provided to the 4 fire companies, they would take it, they would hold it until they needed to pay for it. We've changed that. So now we keep it, we put it into the apparatus fund, and that fund is now used to support the apparatus plan. So the opportunity exists now today is that instead of giving just Pendle the amount for their apparatus plan, we are going to go forward and move towards this process of the township funding the apparatus. So it's a change of where the funds are going and who controls the funds.
I just want to point out that the township had absolutely no insight or input into this into purchasing a tower as far as the date of purchase, which were they on 2 years ago, unless you guys are telling that we did say, we had a budget for a purchase of a tower. Because if you're saying we had this plan all along, 2 years ago when 8 took delivery of the tower, 8 spec'd the tower on their own budget, on what budget they wanted to spend. And if we had now, whether or not 8 is competent enough to cover, the needs of it, we don't have any input about to what that tower is. And this is just a back way to start to pay for that tower. And if you're saying,
In the old days, every fire department had their own budgets, and they made their own decisions about what apparatus they needed and what apparatus to purchase and how much to pay for it and how to pay for it, and the township didn't control that.
Right.
What is changing, what we are moving toward, and what is the result of a multi-year process of many, many meetings with the 4 fire companies is, as Ms. Kane articulated, we now have a fire apparatus fund. The funds go into the fire apparatus fund, and then the township uses those funds to purchase and maintain the fire apparatus. So rather than the individual fire companies doing it themselves, we will now own all the apparatus moving forward. And this is all part of a...
in that case, do we have in the MOA, or MOU, because I didn't read it, do we have an MOU with all 4 putting a pause on any purchase of any apparatus or equipment? Or do we have any input into the equipment purchasing if we're going to end up ultimately owning it?
So that's a great question. So there's 2 pieces in play. So one is that if the township is going to be making the purchasing, which is happening now, there's no other apparatus that's already on the street being paid for. Anything that would be new has to be ordered, which is what we're doing now with the 3 engines I talked about earlier. So the township is going to have full say in what that spec looks like. Of course, that's a partnership with the 3 companies. What do they want? What do we think makes sense? All of that. So that happens, and that goes into joint ownership. 2, the apparatus funding that's been provided to some of the other companies that's being held, the township's going through the process of saying, if we're going to be making purchases, that money needs to come to the township for us to do that. And then the third point is that anything that's not contemplated in that apparatus plan or that isn't eventually needed in what would be a full career department, hopefully a very long time from now, isn't going to be purchased by the township. If they want something that isn't contemplated, that's on their own time.
So it's still going to maintain itself a public-private partnership where it's not going to be a full Middletown Township owns the department. It's still going to be a nonprofit funded by ran by volunteers, or...
Are you asking about the department or the apparatus?
The department. I mean, the apparatus is utilized by the department, so are we not taking over the department? Is the plan not to take over the department directly? It's to just take over the equipment,
So
the heavy-duty equipment?
It's a support, right? So there's 4 volunteer fire companies now that are independent nonprofits that are providing a service. Of course, they have financial challenges. That's an issue with every volunteer company in the country at this point. And so by purchasing apparatus and entering into a joint relationship where they can use that apparatus, but so can the township, and managing that transition process allows them to sort of have one less thing to worry about financially and otherwise, recognizing that the landscape will change in time. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but
it did somewhat. And you obviously don't know this, but to his point, to Mike's point, years ago they did talk to each other with Skyline. We had Skyline, the Skyline agreement. Of course, that fell apart, teens or late aughts or whatnot. So there was a conversation. But if we're going to be the 5th voice, well, it would have been technically 6 back then, but we've been the 5th voice into that conversation. That's understandable, but it's not. But like $500,000 being pushed onto us, especially given I guess the now semi-legitimate discussion of what was being purchased 2 years ago. That concerns me. You spring a $500,000 on that. I guess that's a bit surprising. That we're going to do it like tonight.
I think that overlooks the fact that we need this apparatus. This is an essential firefighting tool that we need in Middletown Township. And so as part of our broader picture of what are the needs of the 4 volunteer fire companies and the career staff to perform their job duties, what are the apparatuses that we need? We went through a long and detailed process to figure that out, and the tower is one of them. So, and ultimately...
I'm not going to sit here and besmirch Station 8. They understand what the community is and what is needed there. But at the time, if this was the plan all along, at the time, we had no input of what we need.
Correct. That's true. I agree with that. But listen, I mean, we can't continue to look backward. I mean, at the end of the day, what we are trying to do is stave off a move to a full paid career firefighting department in Middletown Township, which will have substantial tax implications for the residents here.
Oh, no,
And so-
I understand that.
So
And
we're trying.
guess what sets that?
Right, so this
The
is.
population density that we're increasing.
Well, what we are trying to do is keep our volunteer fire companies viable, thriving, and continuing to serve our township while supporting them and supplementing them as needed. And this is part of the move toward that process.
I mean, once Middletown Township hits over, 100, which 100,000, which is at this rate in like 5-6 years, it's going to have to turn to full paid anyway. But that's another conversation for another time. But if this is, if this is what the plan is, I would prefer a smoother transition with more input. I'll get off my soapbox.
I don't have the budget with me tonight, so I'm just going to ask, how much money is currently in the fire apparatus fund? How much money?
I don't have that number in front of me, Mr. Vala, do you?
You give me a moment, I'll pull it up.
And was that put in the approved budget for this year?
Yes.
Okay. And I remember last year we had to move money from a fund to cover expenses that we couldn't cover. So we were in a deficit last year, correct?
Last year, there was money transferred from the investment account. Is that what you're referring to?
Correct. To cover expenses that we ran over from the budget.
No, that was for capital. That had nothing to do with the fire fund.
Okay. And I agree with Eric. We're talking about an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. Says nothing about spending $500,000. And we need fire services. Like, I agree. Support 100% fire services. But when we talk about what looks like we're bailing out a bad loan, that's really what it looks like. And that guy did come in here, Mr. Ratliff. I guess that's his name, for like a year. And we all kind of rolled our eyes, right? And then it looks like we're bailing out a loan that we had no bearing on when they took the loan.
I mean, that's not what's happening. And to be clear, I mean, I never roll my eyes at Mr. Ratliff, and he has had, not Mr. Ratliff, what's his name, the gentleman? Cahill.
Or Mr.
And he had multiple meetings with the township where he came in and sat down, and most recently had a very thoughtful and...
Yeah, he and I met a week ago. His question specifically is about the loan documents and the qualification for the loan for the Pendle Fire Company. That's really not a question for Middletown Township. The question, at least for me, is does having Tower 8 in the system for both the volunteer system and the eventual career system make sense? No, I haven't heard anyone say that it doesn't make sense, and it's contemplated as far back as a 2023.
And I'm not saying it doesn't.
No, I'm not saying that you are.
I'm saying if we don't pay for anything, and Pendle still has to pay the loan.
So all four fire companies are receiving annual disbursements of apparatus funding for the purposes of making payments on it. So they would either use township taxpayer money to make that loan payment, which over the course of the loan is an additional $241,000, or the township can say, hey, we're going to pay this off now with the apparatus fund so that we're not paying $241,000. So to me, I'm looking at the question, and my advice to the board has been, if we agree that the tower should be in play and we have the finances to support making the full principal payment, do we want the apparatus plan to pay $240,000 more to pay it over 15 years, or $241,000 less by paying it off now? And that's really a question for the finance director who performed the financial analysis and the policy briefing summary, because I haven't heard a dispute about the system.
And I'm not saying it's not a good financial decision to save a couple $100,000. What I'm saying is it seems like we entered into negotiations. Now we're bailing out a bad loan. That's another $500,000, right? That is coming out of a fire apparatus fund, which how much is in the fund right now?
1.5 million.
1.5, okay. And that's already in there in a bank account?
Yep.
Okay. So we have those funds, so I'm glad that there's enough money that we're not moving money from somewhere else. But when you're talking to the citizens of Middletown Township that are riding around on these roads that are terrible, okay, that we're patching up, like, it looks like Philadelphia out there. We're not even fixing whole roads anymore.
I spoke at length about this at the capital budget meeting.
Right, but I mean, we're patching hundreds of feet. Like, it looks like Roosevelt Boulevard. And
But different money goes into different funds from different places. So
I
whether
understand
we're
that.
spending money out of the fire fund to pay for fire apparatus doesn't impact whether we have money in the road improvement fund to pay for road improvement. I mean,
I understand that.
I hear what you're saying.
But I'm going to second what Eric said, is to put it on to put it on an agenda as a MOU, and then to show up and I'm like, holy crap, we're spending $500,000. I understand why you're doing it. I don't think it's the right way to go about it. We've been hearing about these fire negotiations the entire time, and your message to Mr. Cahill is, I can't speak about ongoing negotiations. But yet you're representing us, and you just spent $500,000. You see what I'm saying? So you can't talk about ongoing negotiations, but then you're not updating your constituents on, hey, this is what we're doing and this is where we're going.
So it's kind of apples and oranges. The question about negotiations dealt with the single contract. He was asking about the contract that we were negotiating and are continuing to negotiate with the 4 fire companies to have one single contract. That is a conversation that is ongoing with the fire companies, and I didn't think it was appropriate to speak publicly about the status of those negotiations, because when you're negotiating and having bargaining sessions, there's some confidentiality there, and it's not fair to the fire.
Understood.
That's separate from the apparatus plan, which is something that has been publicly talked about for years now. I mean, we talked about it at the budget meeting last year. That's not something that's been a secret.
And you've talked about it, but yet tonight, if me and Eric didn't come up here and ask questions, I've probably learned more about where this township is going with our fire and rescue in this brief 10 minutes. Okay, because we are questioning you guys, than I've learned in over a year of coming to these meetings. But yet you've been in negotiations. How is it, if I've come to the meetings, and if I'm coming to the meetings and I have no idea where we're going with fire until now, okay, to a potentially full paid fire force, shouldn't your constituents, your tax base know, how do we rectify that? How do we not have a better plan of getting that out to the constituents to say, hey, this is where we're going as a board?
We had a massive study that we commissioned where we had an outside consultant come in and do a full top-to-bottom audit of our fire services in the township, and they came up with a whole bunch of recommendations, and we had a long meeting where we went through all of the recommendations and what our plan was moving forward. We had an all-day, it was a Saturday, we had an all-day brainstorming session where we came up with all of the action items. All of this was part of that, and it may have predated when you started attending meetings, because this has been going on for several years now.
Was it ever discussed at a meeting?
What's that?
Was it ever discussed at a meeting?
Was it ever what?
Was it ever discussed at a Board of Supervisors meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked about this a lot. I mean, the fact that there hasn't been a lot of public discussion about it lately is because we've been fine-tuning and negotiating the details of this contract, which we are still doing. But ultimately, the apparatus plan was fully agreed to and is implemented.
Right.
So this is just, I hear what you're saying.
Well, look, look, like I said, agree that we need a phenomenal fire and emergency services. What I think you're going to get is people are going to start seeing some sticker shock. And I think they're going to want answers the same as me. So just putting that out there. I appreciate you guys.
Yep. Yeah, there's no question. Fire apparatus are very expensive. Any other questions? Yes,
Joe
sir.
Fitch, 346 Wyoming Avenue. So we're buying the fire truck from Pendel?
Good question. So we're entering into joint ownership. So we're paying off the balance of the loan that they have, the
So
principal
they're-
balance, and we'll own it jointly.
So we're paying off the back end. Their part was what they paid for in the past 5 years?
Yes, primarily with apparatus funding from the township and then some other sources.
Are we housing it? Are they housing it?
It's going to remain at Station 8. We don't have adequate housing for
Will
that.
we have access to it if we need it, or will they?
We will have access. Our career department is operating out of a fire engine, and the reason for that is if there's an incident in the township, the first truck you want on the street is an engine, number one, and number two, it's easier to move around for fire inspections. That could change over time, whether it's additional career firefighters or different dynamics where things could change in that, right? But for now, we'll continue under the same operating procedures.
What was the cost of the truck originally?
Look that up. Mr. Vala, do you have that number in front of you?
Yeah, it was about 1.5 million total.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things also that I think, I don't know if it's been explicitly said, but I guess was implied, is the way that it worked previously is we were providing fire service funds to the various fire companies, and then they were using those funds, at least in part, along with other funds that they had from different sources, to buy their own apparatus. Under the new agreement, we will no longer be giving those funds directly to the fire companies. So it would be illogical for us to say, we're not going to pay off or help make payments on your existing apparatus, but we're also going to stop giving you the money that we've been giving to you and that you've been relying on to help pay for those apparatus. So this is part and parcel of this whole process of taking ownership of the apparatus. We have an obligation to fund it. We just do. And we believed that the most prudent path at this point in time is to pay off the principal rather than continuing to make payments and incur interest. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. All right, any other public questions or comments? Yes, sir.
My name's Al Montenario, Cobalt Ridge, Levittown, Pennsylvania. The only other question that I have is, stated in the annual fire fund balance that there's going to be an added transfer in from the fire company of $2 million?
That's the apparatus funding that we referenced earlier. So that's funding that's been provided to some of the other companies who are banking that until they have to make apparatus purchase. What Mr. Kizak just defined is a different policy direction of saying that we're going to house that money and make those purchases ourselves and enter into joint agreements like what we're discussing tonight.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if it was coming in from tax increases.
No, that $2 million additional transfers is existing funding that's not within the township coffers now, but that is expected to be returned.
Are you assuming that it's expected to be returned?
There's documents communicating that to the fire companies going back several years. I've communicated that. So yes, I am expecting it to be returned.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Jumping back to the first thing about the beer garden thing, where will we hold that stuff?
Where the beer garden's going to be? One is Groovin' at the Gates. What are the other two, Mr.?
One is here for
The
holiday
Christmas open house, holiday open house.
Moving at the Gates, September 27th. Firefighters Park at Parkland Fest Day, Saturday, October 4th. And here in the parking lot, Thursday, December 11th at the holiday open house.
And we do this every year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there chances for us to do more of them? I was on a trip in Wisconsin, and some of the parks out there, they do that every Friday night to help build the community, bring money into the park systems and stuff like that. You know, Langhorne Borough does the music thing every other Wednesday night. Is there any chance that we might do something more along that lines to, I guess, to bring more money into the township, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we could certainly think about.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right, so we're still on the memorandum of understanding. There has been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of awarding a bid for the Community Development Block Grant for the 2025 ADA Curb Ramp Program. Mr. Kessler?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. Before you tonight is the recommendation for award of this year's ramp improvement program. As in previous years, we've been able to have a CDBG grant received by the township. Credit to the township staff to align that funding once again. The grant amount that the township received is $160,400. And the scope of this year's program was set up to have an estimate that would be within that grant amount, so that way the grant could pay for the construction of the project entirely. What you have before you on the screen there is the locations. It's in the Juniper Hill neighborhood. There are 9 intersections altogether. You can see numbered 1 through 8. That's the base bid. The blue number 1 there at Jolly Brook and Jasmine Road was included as an alternate in the event that the pricing came in and we were not able to do that one intersection. Thankfully, we did receive favorable pricing, so, excuse me, so that all 9 intersections are able to be included. It's a total of 22 ramps altogether, if you add up all the 9 intersections. That alternate number 1 location at Jasmine, that's the intersection that this project's going to be able to now create an accessible curb ramp that will then work with the Department of Public Works to create a ADA accessible path to the footbridge that's there that connects Juniper and Lower Orchard. So we're excited that that's been able to be included in the program this year. We received a total of 7 bids altogether, so we had a good field of bids. The low bid was NJS, who the township has worked with a few times in the past, and they've done very nice work for the curb ramp programs in the past. So tonight, before you, we have a recommendation to award both the base bid and alternate 1. The total of that is $158,373.75. So that does, as you can tell, fall within the grant amount that the township got. So it all fits within that budget.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Any questions for Mr. Kessler?
I know we received a grant for it for 160. What do we anticipate? Do we have anything over and above that in budget for curb ramps for 2025, or is it just the 160?
This was the only curb ramp allocated budget
Okay.
for curb ramps this year.
Okay.
Other questions?
And I know I've said this before, but $8,000 per ramp seems extremely high, and that's prior to, I think, engineering fees. Have we looked into any alternatives that might be able to bring the cost down?
We are actively doing that. Yeah.
Yep,
Mr.
I was
Ratliff?
going to say, we're doing a business proposal in-house to determine what it would cost our team to be able to build a concrete team and to do that ramp in-house, and to determine how much concrete work we would need to do per year to kind of see a return on that. So that's something that we'll be presenting on during the budget process.
Other questions? If not, I can take a motion.
I make a motion to award the base bid and alternative bid number 1 for 2025 CDBG ADA curb ramp project in the amount of $158,373.75 to NJS Concrete.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Yep.
This is part of what I did during highway inspection for years with the state of Pennsylvania, and I worked with NJS, Nick and Jerry Saravo, good people, they do quality work. I would be very leery about the township undertaking ADA curb ramp concrete work. It's extremely technical and specialized, and there's a lot of numbers and benchmarks that need to be hit, and if they're missed by 1/10 of 1%, the thing is not ADA compliant, and it can be subject to a lawsuit or remove and replace. And when we get into doing that, if you have a contractor that doesn't know what they're doing, or people who aren't used to doing it on a regular basis, the cost can be astronomical. We've dealt with contractors who had to remove and replace like 1 out of every 8 ramps that they installed, and these are professionals who do this for a living. So you can imagine somebody who does this occasionally as like a township, when they normally do other stuff full-time, it's a recipe for disaster. So I'd be very careful if we're going to consider doing it in-house.
Thank you.
That's a valid point. I will mention for the projects that the township does in our best effort to avoid any kind of repeated work or, if nothing else, just a nuisance to the neighborhood that's getting curb ramps. Obviously, the cost of the project wouldn't go up if the contractor messed up per se, but we do work with the contractors closely to check those exact thresholds of slopes and ADA compliance when they frame out the work before they start pouring, and that way avoiding hopefully any kind of reconstruction they would have to do. So that's a procedure that I'm sure we would do, whether it's a bid out contractor, folks that might be in-house eventually. That's the best procedure to make sure that you get them done right the first time. And
Do
you're
we
good going
confirm
forward.
that once they're in, that those slopes are correct?
We do, yeah. Yep. They have to meet all
And that
ADA
process
compliance.
wouldn't change?
I would expect not. That's, I think, the best way to go about it.
Any other questions? All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Next on the agenda, consideration of authorizing the purchase of one 2025 F-350 chassis 4x4 SD Super Cab 168-inch WB SRW XL X3F, one liftgate plow and post puller, one light bar and radio for a total of $138,417.87. Mr. Gartmeyer.
Good evening, board members. What you have in front of you is a replacement vehicle for a utility vehicle which we own right now. It is 19 years old, so we're planning on replacing that this year. This truck is a little bit different than the other trucks we usually get. It's a utility truck, however, it has a plow, it has a lift gate, but the other added thing to this is a post pillar, which is used in our sign department to pull the post out of the ground. We do it manually right now with the equipment we have. This actually attaches to the front of the truck and is utilized for that. So that's why the additional cost you see of the equipment for the truck is a little bit higher than normal. It's something we kicked around for a while, and we finally found the right one that we can utilize a plow frame. So the truck's being used as a plow truck and also being used for this also. And it is CoStarz, and we do have a grant from the RDA.
We have RDA grant money for this?
Yes, we do.
Any questions for Mr. Gartmeyer? All right, I'll move to authorize the purchase of one 2025 F-350 chassis 4x4 SD Super Cab 168-inch WB SRW XL X3F from Fred Beans Ford of Doylestown in the amount of $86,063. One liftgate plow post puller from H.A. DeHart and Son of Thoroughfare, New Jersey, the amount of $43,657.97, and one light bar and radio from Tryon of Croydon, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $8,697.08 for a total of $138,417.87. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. It's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Gartmeyer.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the presentation of the 2026 minimum municipal obligation for the Middletown pension plans. Ms. Huckabridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, I have the presentation of the MMO for you. There we go. Minimum municipal obligation is the minimum amount that a municipality has to contribute annually to the pension plans. This is a requirement under State Act 205 from 1984 to ensure that all the pensions can meet the obligations to pay retirees. The obligation is calculated based off of projected payroll multiplied by factors that are calculated by the actuaries every 2 years. We have a combined MMO of $3.7 million for this year. The non-uniform plan is $397,000. Police plan is $3.3 million. These figures are consistent with prior years. Here's a historical chart for you, just so you can see how our MMO has changed over the years. This goes back to 2021. The blue bars are the MMO for the non-uniform pension plan. As you can see, it's been consistent. The rate has come down a little bit, and that's just due to retirements. And then new staff, they have to wait a year before they can be in the pension plan. The yellow line is the funding percentage that's in our audited report at the end of the year. So we have official numbers through 2024, and we are funded at 92.9% for the non-uniform plan, which is a very healthy funding percentage for a pension plan. For the police pension plan, here you have the same information. Our MMO has gone up a little bit. Again, rates continue to increase for police pensions, so that's why we've seen an increase there in the MMO. The funding for 2024 was at 88.4% for the police pension plan. Going forward, we'd like to aim to be around 90% at least as a funding percentage for this plan. Here's our total MMO versus state aid received. We do receive funding from the state to offset a portion of our MMO every year. The blue is the total combined non-uniform and police pension number. The gray is the state portion. The yellowy orange line is the net liability, taking the blue MMO that the township owes less what state funding we have received. So it's varied a little bit, but fairly consistent with our state aid. Our state aid has been about 23% of our total MMO over the last few years. And so here in total, we have our MMOs for the two plans totaling 3.7 million. Net liability will be 2.8 million after our projected state aid, and we would just need approval of this so we can submit it to the actuaries.
Did the actuarial firm provide any updates or insights into the calculations? I know we recently changed over from an old firm to a new firm.
The rates that were in the calculation were the same as last year. Our next valuation is for January 1st, 2025. So then I think those rates will change.
Any other questions for Ms. Templebridge? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is consideration of approving the 2026 Regional Development Authority Grant Program application resolutions. And they are resolutions 25-16R for police vehicles, 25-17R for public works vehicles, 25-18R for police records management software system, 25-19R for North Fire EMS station improvements, 25-20R for PennDOW Middletown Emergency Squad, 25-21R for William Penn Fire Company, and 25-22R for Parkland Training Room renovation. Mr. Valla?
Yes, good evening, Supervisors. Before you tonight, we do every September is authorize resolutions to apply to the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority for the municipal grant program. For anybody in the community who's not familiar, this is a grant program supported in part by the 1% tax on the Parks Casino, which is enabled by state law. And this is specifically designed to reinvest in public safety and infrastructure in specifically the communities that immediately surround a large casino like this. And so only a select number of municipalities in the lower end of the county are eligible. And this has become a very consistent and reliable source of funding, specifically for police and public works vehicles. And the township is also the primary applicant on behalf of our local fire companies and EMS squad if they choose to apply. So before you, there are a total of 7 applications that total a little over $1.6 million. The first 4 are township-led proposals, and the remaining 3 are from the respective EMS and emergency companies. I will note on project number 4 for the North Station, so Station 22 on Langhorne Yardley Road, there are some maintenance items being addressed by our public works staff. They're working through a backlog of maintenance items. They do have a very strong skill set, and we are working with management of that department to make them a little bit more efficient. But there are a total of 7 applications before you. We do expect those awards to happen by early or mid-December, so we should know going into the new calendar and budget year. And if and when we are awarded, hopefully by the RDA, there will be additional resolutions to the board for you guys to actually accept awards at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. It's probably an understatement to say that this has become an important and reliable source of funding for not only our township, but the other townships that are impacted by this program. And the RDA board has certainly been very generous with Middletown Township in helping us fund largely police, public work, and other fire and emergency vehicles. So it's really been a great program for Middletown. So I'm pleased this year that once again, we are taking this opportunity to apply for grant funding for police vehicles, public work vehicles, police software, Middletown Emergency Squad, Parkland Fire Company, William Penn Fire Company, and the North Fire EMS station. So are there any questions from any board members about the RDA applications? All right, then I will make a motion to authorize resolutions 2516R through 2522R, authorizing applications to the 2026 Bucks County Redevelopment Authority Municipal Grant Program. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Valla. All right, so that is our last formal agenda item and brings us to other business. So I'll start with Mr. Valla.
Yes, thank you. In the spirit of speaking of grant applications, I'm happy to report on one other that didn't require specific board approval to apply, but it is a big one worth noting. It is to the PennDOT Transportation Alternative Set Aside, or we like acronyms in government, so we call it TAZA. This is approximately a $1.5 million request to close a couple of sidewalk gaps along Woodburn Road. And so that is something that we are putting through the process. We do have we believe a lot of interest in the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, who's helping facilitate the process locally.
That was part of our multimodal, correct?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kessler.
Nothing else to add this evening. Thank you.
We got to get you guys another microphone. Mr. Esposito.
Thank you. Just wanted to announce that the board did hold an executive session immediately prior to tonight's meeting to discuss labor issues and personnel matters. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Ratliff.
Thank you very much. Few items. First, I want to congratulate our Assistant Director of Public Works on welcoming their new baby into the world. So we're super excited to be welcoming a new member of the Middletown Township family and wish them all of success with this new life. Had a volunteer fire chiefs meeting last week. It was really great to get together with the four volunteer chiefs and see how they work together and kind of things they have going on and what that coordination looks like. Obviously, a lot of work, as we saw tonight, happening in the fire service, and it continues to be a pleasure to support them as needed. Last week, we held a kind of a town hall meeting with the Langhorne Gables community about their stormwater project that is actually kicking off this week. Wednesday, I believe, mobilization is happening. Had about 70 residents come and kind of learn about the project, had a lot of back and forth about the project specifically, stormwater management more generally, the stormwater fee, as well as kind of the need for that, our MS4 requirements, thinking about stormwater management as both kind of managing quantity as well as managing quality, kind of a state mandate. You heard earlier tonight from Mr. Kizak, but I want to emphasize we have budget meetings happening every Monday in October at 6 p.m. Those are super important, a lot of engagement about what the budget looks like and the opportunity to inform that for next year. And last, I'll encourage you to head to the township website and check out our media packages that we've been doing. We put together a lot of information about certain things that are happening in the community that we think the community might be interested in, providing good information that's out there. We also share that with the press. So please check those out and more to come where that comes from. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Ratliff. Ms. Corporal?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Kane?
Nothing further.
Ms. Hannah?
No, thank you. Thanks for letting me join virtually. I appreciate it.
Sure. And I have nothing further, so I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.